Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I'm going to share with you some tips on how to get promoted in the workplace. Before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one directly from a corporate recruiter, an HR professional, and a career coach, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, so does this scenario sound like you? You've been plugging away for years in a corporate job, doing everything that's been asked of you, and you think you're ready to take the next step in your career. However, the people around you seem to be getting promoted and not you. And if you're somebody that truly has career aspirations, which I assume you are because you're watching this video, you have to be very careful not to fall into complacency because you could end up like Joe in the video that I made about why a steady job is bad for your career. So make sure you go check that one out first before you watch the rest of this video. I'll leave a link for it somewhere up there. All right, so now that you've seen that video, the first thing you want to keep in mind is simply doing the job that you were hired to do is not going to be enough. You actually have to go above and beyond. Generally speaking, and this one's pretty obvious, when a corporation is looking to promote somebody, they're going to look for the strongest performers in that group. If you're measured by metrics, you should have a pretty good understanding of how you compare, especially to the benchmark that's set, but potentially other people in your department. There's usually things like KPIs or key performance indicators that you're measured against. And that's usually a good litmus test for how you're performing against the benchmark of the role. So if you're meeting your KPIs, good job, you're doing exactly what they hired you to do. But typically speaking, for those promotions, they're looking for somebody that exceeds those KPIs. And your performance review should be another strong indicator of how you're benchmarked to the rest of the group. If you're getting consistently strong performance appraisals, chances are the organization, and specifically your boss, is looking very favorably at you. There's also the human resource department that pays close attention to those reviews as well. And you can be guaranteed that when it comes time for promotion and your name is thrown into the ring, they're going to be pulling up your performance appraisals to see how you have done over the course of not just the past year, but over the course of a few years. The second major thing that you want to do is taking that performance appraisal to the next level. You want to ask your boss during your performance appraisal what the career paths are for you. Furthermore, you want to be discussing with them what you would like your career to look like and make it known that you're interested in a promotion to a certain type of position. Because once you start having those dialogues, an astute boss will hear that and take it back to the HR department or the leadership above them to start having those dialogues and seeing if your name is truly in the ring. And a good boss is also going to take a look at where you are currently and what potential gaps you might have in your performance or experience, potentially education, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and start to figure out a way to help you close some of those gaps. It might be through additional training or development opportunities. The next tip that I'll give you is to understand what the requirements are for the job that you're interested in being promoted into. So if you currently have a skill gap or an education gap or any other gap that might prohibit you from being qualified for the position, now's the time to start focusing on shoring up your resume so that you make yourself the best possible fit. Because yes, even though you're an internal candidate, and generally internals have a better chance of success, you still need to be a good fit for the role. They can't stretch that far in order to accommodate you. So give the hiring manager every opportunity to promote you by being a good fit who checks all the boxes and meets all the requirements for the position. The next thing I'd recommend is looking for ways to lighten your boss's load. If you're somebody that's typically a wallflower who sits back and just waits for the work to come to them, those people are almost never promoted. We typically look for people who are go-getters, and if you can find ways to make your boss's job easier or take initiative in your department to improve things, that'll go a long way to getting noticed for the next major promotion opportunity. Because essentially what you're trying to do is get the boss to envision that you can handle that next level responsibility because you're taking some of their workload off of them. It's always better to focus on process improvements or revenue generating activities rather than just taking on mundane tasks like, well, I'll write your presentation for you or I'll file some papers for you. So when you're in team meetings, make sure you're paying close attention to what's being brought up and look for ways to drive value. Now, for those of you negative Nancys who are going to say, well, you're just brown nosing, in a way, you kind of need to in a corporate setting if you want to get noticed. You have to go above and beyond and you have to take initiative, and there's just simply no way around it. So you can fight the system all you want and you can stay at the current level that you are, or you can start doing the things necessary to get noticed and promoted at work. Take a look around your organization. I guarantee you just about everybody who has been promoted inside your organization has done some of these things. So when you're in those meetings, you hear the boss bringing up a topic that might be an opportunity for you to improve, take the initiative, volunteer to be on a project team or a process improvement committee, or even a cross-functional group, and get your name out there. Which leads me to the next tip is start to broaden your network, in particular inside of your company. So when you're looking around your organization, it's always better to have multiple cheerleaders in multiple departments pulling for you. So if you're part of a group that normally supports a very narrow vertical, try to find ways to broaden your scope and get involved in other things. Maybe it's a committee that puts you in touch with other people in the organization you wouldn't normally have a lot of contact with, or it could be volunteering to be part of a cross-functional team that's going to tackle some special project. The goal here is to get your name well known beyond just your department, especially at the levels of the organization who are decision makers. Because if your name's always popping up and you're always seen in a positive light, it's going to go a long way to convincing the decision makers in your organization to give you a shot. The next major suggestion I would give you is to be mindful of who you hang out with at work. There's an old adage that says you are what you eat, but I'll also take it a step further and say you are who you hang out with, in particular at work. So if the people that you exclusively hang out with at work are all at your same level, you're probably not going to notice that moving the needle a lot when it comes to influencing the levels above you. Instead, you should be focusing on networking at the level that you want to be promoted to. Try to figure out creative ways to get involved at that level so that your name is continually brought up in a positive light. Because listen, there's a degree of politicking involved here. Who you hang out with is how your name will be associated. It might also behoove you to find similar fast risers and hitch your wagon to them, because if you become tight with the people who are on their way up as well, it can only help you in the long run. This isn't to say that you should avoid all the people in your department and never hang out with them, because you'll get a reputation for not being that friendly. But just be mindful of how you spend your networking time at work. Another thing I want to focus on is learning how to influence others around you. Now, it's important to note, influencing is different than bossing. You don't want to be bossing people around. You want to be gently leading them through example, or showing that you have a level of expertise that they don't have and that they should pay close attention to you. So if you find yourself being a resident expert in a certain thing, show that leadership and influence. Look for opportunities in meetings to show why your perspective should be accounted for and listened to. Because in almost every case, the people who get promoted are assertive and know how to influence those around them. And I'd also take it a step further and look for ways to lead a team, whether it's a committee where you volunteer to take on a lead role, or maybe it's that project that you're working on where you volunteered to be the lead and be the spokesperson for it. Be your department's biggest cheerleader, especially to the broader organization around you, and people will take notice. Plus, showing that initiative and leadership will show that you can handle more responsibility, and that's certainly a competency that we're going to look for when you're promoted. The next thing I want to mention is learn how to write an effective resume, because you're going to need that resume to get in front of the right people and show that you have the necessary skills as they closely align to the job that you're trying to be promoted for. While you're at it, look for ways to build your resume while you're currently working. So check out those job descriptions, see what they're asking for, and make sure that your resume is reflecting that. And if it's not, use this opportunity to focus on projects, competencies, and other things that you need to ensure that you're the best possible fit. And then, of course, make sure that you can back it all up with KPIs, measurements, and numbers. Be in the habit of writing down those accomplishments while they happen. Maybe keep a separate spreadsheet or a folder with some important accomplishments. And when it comes time, you can whip those numbers out, put them into your resume, also use them whenever you're interviewing. To stand out and get promoted in your workplace setting, it does take considerable effort and calculated moves on your part. And I will add this, one thing that recruiters and hiring managers covet in resumes of highly successful people is when they see progression inside of the same organization. So if you're at a certain level and you got promoted to the new level, maybe it's a leadership title, that shows a lot more strength than somebody getting promoted from an outside organization to another outside organization. And that's why it's really important to try to get that promotion at work if you're interested in a strong career path. All right, so there's a lot of tips to position yourself on how to be the best possible fit for a promotion. And if you get noticed for that promotion, you got to keep in mind that there's going to be a tap on your shoulder. You're going to get called into a series of interviews. You're going to need to sell yourself. So make sure you know how to interview properly. And that's what I specialize in. I've got a course called the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp that teaches you how to go through each step of that interview process, ultimately with the goal of landing your dream job, in this case, landing that promotion and the big raise. You also want to make sure that you're doing proper networking both inside your company and externally so that you can position yourself to have the strongest possible career. It's always easier to skip those recruiters altogether and unlock the hidden job market. And that's where the Unlocking LinkedIn course comes in. Make sure you check that one out as well. And of course, if you need more help on a private one-on-one basis, I do offer some private coaching sessions. You can find out more information on my website, which is alifeafterlayoff.com, and I will leave a link below. Hey, here's to you getting that big promotion. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.